Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Not Your Average Josh back here for another movie review, and today I am here to review the new comedy movie House Party, directed by Calmatic, and also with the writing credits given to Stephen Glover and Jamal Olori. Before I get into this review any further, I do want to say I appreciate anyone who's watching this right now. You can leave a like, leave a comment if you agree or disagree with my opinion on this movie. You can also subscribe to this channel. If you're watching me for the first time, I appreciate all the support I do get for this channel. You can also follow me on TikTok, add me on Snapchat, where I'll post content similar to this, but for the most part, my content will be here on this YouTube, Not Your Average Josh. So again, I appreciate all the support I do get, but let's get back into House Party. From New Line Cinema comes the remix of the fan favorite 90s classic when a pair of down-on-their-luck house cleaners discover they're assigned to clean the mansion of LeBron James while he's overseas. They decide to make a life-changing decision to throw a giant party in a quest for immortality and some cash. As the party gets out of control and one of LeBron's championship rings goes missing, they will be launched into a wild night that they will never forget. I will say, when I first saw the trailer to this movie, I was fairly anticipating it. It looked like a throwback comedy movie. It is, of course, a remake of the 90s movie, and I will say, full disclosure before I go any further, that I have not seen the original House Party movie. I know for a lot of people that are watching this, they are going to be very disappointed by that, but yeah, I have not seen that movie yet. I was going to actually watch it a night or two before I went to see this movie, but I just got busy doing other things, so my perspective on this movie is going to be a very fresh one to this world, this House Party universe, I guess you'll say. I did not know the two main actors in this movie, Tosin Cole as Damon and Jacob Lattimore as Kevin. I hadn't really seen them in much else, but they looked like they had a fairly good chemistry, so I was anticipating this movie a lot. It seemed like a nice palate cleanser for just all the huge movies that come out nowadays, all the serious movies. They're just not a lot of good comedies nowadays. And, you hear a lot of people saying that, but, the days of the good 90s comedies with the Wayans brothers into the 2000s, of course, with Judd Apatow and the universe that he built, there's just not any comedies like that anymore. And, a lot of the comedies nowadays, there's a lot of nuance to them and, a lot more serious moments thrown into those. There's rarely that fun, just goofy, out of control comedy. And there's, of course, a lot of things that contributed to that. The woke movement. I think a lot of people are just more reserved in making those outrageous comedies. And of course, I think the times just change naturally. These comedies are going to evolve, but it is always good to see a movie like this. And I am happy to say that I really did enjoy this movie for the most part. It's not a great movie. It's not going to be one of the greatest comedies of all time, but it did have that same spirit that I was hoping of those movies of the 90s, the 2000s, of just being a straight up comedy that, the story only goes so far. If you look into it too much, there's holes you can poke into it, but if it makes you laugh enough, then you can look over some of those plot holes. And while this movie doesn't make me laugh out loud constantly throughout, like I said, a great comedy or a classic comedy, yeah, I did have a good entertaining time with it. I will say the first 20 and 30 minutes, I was having my trepidations. I was a little worried, I'm not going to lie. Before you really get into the main plot of this movie, as I mentioned in the description, this whole big party that goes on at LeBron James' house. You have this, you're setting up the characters, the storylines for our main characters. You have Damon, as I mentioned. Damon is kind of the carefree partier. He has this job of promoting this little side hustle of promoting parties and then making money off doing that, while he also has the job with his friend Kevin cleaning houses throughout the day. That's kind of his day job. Then you also have Kevin, who is the more reserved friend. He has a kid of his own. He is more just focused on making money for his kid. He is involved with this custody battle with his baby mama, and so he's obviously this more focused, more just concerned about little things, while Damon is this carefree friend. There's a nice little classic contrast there for any good buddy comedy movie, especially a party movie, where as you get into the party here, you do have Damon being the guy who's just trying to have fun, be in the moment, just have fun with the party, where you have Kevin already concerned with the cost that this is going to be. They're throwing this party at LeBron James' house, of course, with LeBron James not knowing. So he's just very concerned the whole time. Are we going to get in trouble? Are the cops going to come? Like I said, it's not a great movie, so there is things I thought could have been done a little bit more efficiently, effectively. Particularly in the first 20 minutes, like I was saying, they're showing these characters in their lives where they're kind of at. It just takes a while to get into the main thrust in the story of this movie, the storyline you're going to go on. And I thought there was just times where the dialogue was stagnant, and there were some scenes that could have been push along a little bit quicker. I think maybe this movie could have shaved about 5-10 minutes off of it just from the first 20 minutes. But as I said, once you get into this party of this movie, which is the main portion of this movie, this was just a really fun movie. All my trepidations, all my concerns were pretty much washed away, not fully completely. You know, I didn't fall in love with this movie, but I was really just enjoying my time with this. It doesn't really have any, you know, a main plot that's going to be very serious to follow. There is, you know, a few little subplots that are thrown in here to try and throw a wrinkle into the whole party they're trying to throw here. And I thought, you know, they were all serviceable enough for the movie. You have these three gentlemen at the beginning of the movie that this little a kernel gets dropped for what could possibly happen later on in the movie, where they're already pissed off at Damon in particular because he apparently stole a necklace from one of their friends, one of their girls actually. So you assume that they're probably gonna end up coming to the party, and they do, and they try and wreck the party. They end up taking, spoiler, they end up taking an item from the house, and that ends up turning into a little bit of a side story that they have to end up going on to try and get that item back. So of course LeBron won't be upset. And you know, there's few little side plots like that in here just thrown throughout. The way they really set up this whole party is they find this huge list of famous friends that LeBron James has, and they just pretty much hit up everybody on there. So of course you have plenty of famous cameos in this movie. And I know for maybe some it's gonna seem a little annoying, a little just like, oh wow, there's another famous guy. You're just here in this movie for the check. But for me, there's just so much famous people in here, just all kind of thrown at you. There's just like, oh, there's someone I know, and oh, there's another dude I know. It was just kind of fun for me. It kind of added to the whole house party environment and just the carefree comedy that this movie is. And as I said, this movie is not trying to take itself too seriously. Yeah, there's some goofy moments and jokes that don't work. And like I said, not all jokes work. I'm not laughing constantly throughout. But the jokes that did hit did have me laughing for sometimes for a full-on minute. Like as I was mentioning, the three guys that come in and take the item, there's this one dude I have to shout out in this group, Melvin Gregg. He has some lines in this movie, and you could tell it seems they have a little bit of funny outtakes in the credits. As the credits are rolling, and you could tell as he's delivering some of these lines that they seem like they're all improv, and he was saying the most outrageous, funny things, and I was just cracking up. The few people that were in the theater with me were laughing during this part. He had some of the best, probably the best lines in this movie that had me rolling. Alan Maldonado, I believe that's how you say his name. He was really good as the leader of this group. He kind of playing off of Melvin Gregg a little bit, but they were just really great. And for all the cameos, I mean, you just had plenty. You had Odell Beckham Jr. in here. Of course, LeBron James ends up showing up near the end of this movie. You have Big Sean showing up. Of course, DC Young Fly is in this as the DJ that's friends with Kevin and Damone. He is really good. He has plenty of funny moments in this movie, and the character he's playing as this DJ, it kind of seems like you just feel like he has part of the realism of his actual, like, who he is in real life, and then his persona maybe that he's creating in this character. I just really loved his, he's this DJ that they're really trying the whole movie to not get drunk, because when he gets drunk or high or anything, his DJing, it gets effective. You have Mark Cuban in here that's involved with this little side plot that I was mentioning about the gentleman stealing the item from the house. You have Kid Cudi in here, who really, in terms of the cameos, I guess you'll say, especially the people that are playing themselves, he really, I believe, has the biggest part in terms as far as that goes. I really enjoyed Kid Cudi in this movie. He's a little bit him, as well as playing into kind of this persona that I feel like fans and people view him as this kind of really weird guy that's not cool at parties and stuff like that. And I think a lot of that is true about him though as well, just from some interviews that I've seen from him. But he kind of plays into this, and he has like these alternate versions of himself. Like it's a really kind of trippy, cool little character that Kid Cudi plays, and he even has this really badass kind of little mini action scene that I really loved near the end of the movie. He had a fairly, definitely a bigger role than I thought he was going to have in this movie, and I just really adored that. You had Shakira Janae Pei as Mika. She's kind of the love interest of Kevin in this movie, and I thought she did a really good job with her character. There is some fairly emotional moments between her and Kevin that I kind of connected with a little more than I thought I was going to. And I think overall there was just a few emotional moments in this movie that were actually, like I said, connecting me to the story more than I thought it was going to. Like, once the party really gets going, I was on board with just the whole, like I said, carefree, fun comedy that this movie was. But there are some moments, like there is this conversation, kind of a cliche moment in a movie like this where you have the main characters have this huge argument at the party, as I mentioned, Kevin is so worried about what's going on. He ends up really just kind of boiling over, and they end up having this huge argument. And it was actually a really, like, it felt like a real argument that really made these characters feel actually tangible, not just movie characters. It felt like a real argument between two friends. To continue with the cameos, just kind of round it off. I mean, you have Snoop Dogg in here, you got Anthony Davis, and you have Juvenile coming in here, Lil Wayne popping up, Gata from the show Dave. That's really where I know him from the most. It was great to see him in here. And someone I do have to mention in here that I have not mentioned yet, Andrew Santino. Just have to shout him out because I love watching him on his podcast, Whiskey Ginger, on his podcast he does with Bobby Lee. But also, he's a really good stand-up comedian. Just dropped a special on Netflix. Not that I need to be promoting his career and everything, but I just want to say he was really good in this movie. He also made, not necessarily even a cameo, he actually had a kind of a limited role in this movie. Kind of playing that character in comedy movies that just keeps showing up throughout the movie, and he doesn't really have anything that pertains to the overall plot, but his just addition to the movie I thought was fun. All the jokes he had I thought were really good, really funny, and he just did a good job in this movie. It was great to see him on the big screen, just because I watched so much of his podcast and his comedy. So once you get to the end of this movie, as I said, you do have LeBron James come in, and they have this whole segment where he shows up to the party and is really pissed at the two main characters. Damon ends up challenging him to a basketball game at his little home court he has. And it's a fun little comedy moment. When it first started, when they got on the court, I was like, okay, this is pretty funny. It just did kind of fall a little bit flatter. I thought it could have been a little more funny. I don't know. There was just something about it. It's kind of the last segment of the movie. They square off in this basketball match, and of course, LeBron James isn't winning. And they end up actually calling the cops. And that's kind of really how the movie ends. Damon goes to jail, and then, spoiler alert, Damon goes to jail, and then you have him and Kevin really make up, of course, from their argument. One of the things I did actually appreciate about Kevin's character is the whole movie he is motivated by trying to make money to be able to pay for his daughter's school, her private school. I did like that emotional attachment you have where his character might have seemed, I don't know, just kind of there if you didn't have that attachment, because I thought Damon was really a lot of the life of them. Because he is just kind of that character that he's colorful. He's just living in the moment, and so it was almost more enjoyable at times to see him on the screen. But once you had that attachment with Kevin, I did like their chemistry they had. They were two contrasting characters, but you could tell what brings them together and why they're friends. That's pretty much all my main thoughts. There's really not much to go into. Again, the plot is very simplistic with this movie. It's just a fun comedy. There's going to be people that, of course, with any comedy movie, it's very subjective. So if you don't find any of the jokes funny, it's might be a rough ride for you with this movie. But there's going to be people like me, I think, that just think it's a fun comedy. Had some funny moments in it, not overly funny throughout. It was good to see a nice movie like this in the theaters. There's a lot of various movies in the theaters right now. You got Megan, that's a fun little thriller / horror / comedy. You got Plane, which is a nice little throwback 90s action movie that's out right now. And then you get a movie like this. It's just a fun little comedy. I like the different movies that are out right now. It's really cool to see in January. And for not to really be any horrible movies out right now is really nice as well. But yeah, that'll be my main thoughts. I'm going to give House Party a 6.5 out of 10. Not the greatest comedy in the world, but I did have a fun time with this movie. I am very interested to be able to go back and see this movie again. I would recommend it, absolutely, especially if you're into the older comedy style. It's just an outrageous comedy. That'll be it for now. If you're watching this video, give it a like and give it a comment. I appreciate all the support I do get. You can also subscribe to this channel, Not Your Average Josh, if you're watching this for the first time. I do appreciate that as well. You can follow me on TikTok. You can add me on Snapchat, where I post content similar to this, but most of my content will be here on this YouTube, Not Your Average Josh. That'll be it for now. I'll be looking for more videos very soon, and I will talk to you guys later.